So firstly, I just want to mention that I almost missed this platform opportunity. Michael reached out to me at a time when I was really in the thick of it and I didn't know what I could offer, and I was drowning simultaneously at the same time trying to keep afloat. But Spirit moved some things and everything aligned, and here I am. And I think it's very, I love my signs and synchronicities. And today is exactly 12 months since the first spiritual fair. That was the 25th of May last year. And I remember this because it's the day before my birthday. So last year on this day was the very first day that I stepped into this space, that I met all of you beautiful people and you welcomed me. And I had a table over there in the corner and I read cards for the very first time publicly and accepted payment for my service. So I feel like it's a very full circle moment. And, the alignment of this just speaks, I think, to the magic that actually can happen in your life if you start to follow it. But given that positive insight, I do want to acknowledge that the past few months have been challenging and uncomfortable for me. When it feels like nothing is going right, you felt like you should be moving forward, but suddenly you're being dragged backwards. It's because the universe is working in your favor, but maybe you can't see it at the time. It's hard to believe, I know, but it's the pause and redirection you need, but maybe didn't want or couldn't see at the time. We shape our reality through the energy we emit. The energy made up our thoughts, beliefs, and intentions, which are likely shaped by your perception and understanding of your experiences on this earth to date. This can work for or against us. If we believe nothing works in our favor, the universe responds. It sends us what you might call a checkpoint, a lesson, a test, an ordeal. Call it what you want, really. These moments aren't punishments, they're opportunities. They're check-ins from your higher self, just to check how much you've grown. Within the final moments of these opportunities, there's always a choice: to give up or to let go. Giving up means selling yourself short, allowing fear and struggle to limit your opportunities. Letting go means freeing yourself from something that is no longer aligned with your highest timeline. Giving up restricts your flow of life, and letting go expands it. So I'd briefly like to share what I've been through in the past few months. I'll share the methods I used to get through this uncomfortable phase with you. And at the end, I thought we would do a clearing on your third eye, because I really believe that how you respond and react to these situations has a lot to do with seeing things from a different perspective, which our third eye is in charge of. So I thought 2025 was going to be my year. I'd been a full-time mum for 15 years. I have 3 children and they were finally all at school. This felt like a big moment in my life. I'd been working on my readings and my healings from our office space on weekends, and it had momentum enough that I thought this was going to be my time to step up. I'd strategically been trying to move out of the business that my husband and I worked together, in the thought that I would step into the kinesiology, the readings, the healings. And I could do that now because I had freedom in the weekdays. And so the universe aligned and I found myself a shared healing space. Now, I moved in optimistically, and if you know, I love my signs, but I didn't actually ask for any in this point because I was so excited by the prospect of being in a space and being able to have clients during the week. And so that is something I don't normally do, but I took a chance on it because it was what I was meant to do. But literally within weeks of moving into this space, there was a 3-story building next door. It's the new heritage building that's going in town. So a 3-story building got absolutely demolished. There was wrecking balls, there was bricks, there was glass shattering, flying everywhere. And if you're familiar with the tarot, this is the Tower card. So the Tower card, number 16 from the tarot. So the Tower card was literally out the window. I could see it, I could hear it. It was very disruptive, and I am very aware of my surroundings, and it made me pause for a moment. And I also started to feel, it felt different. I hadn't had to pay rent before. I believe those that are meant to find me will find me, and I just serve those people that turn up. But it was different now. I was paying rent. When I was thinking about if I was in the right space, if it was the right time, I bent down and picked something off the floor and got the biggest splinter in my hand to date, I think, of my life. I'm not good with blood. and there was this piece of wood just jammed in the side of my hand, and it was all a lot, and I couldn't get it out. So I wrapped it up, drove home, past the demolition, past the rubble, and on the drive home, I realized my signs and synchronicities had stopped. I didn't have that deep connection that I always had. I felt like my guides had gone on holidays. I was asking and no one was talking to me anymore, and I was absolutely lost. Now, I could have kept pushing and the old me would have kept going, don't run away from something just because, it's not going how you want it to go. Maybe you need to put in more time, maybe more effort. But in the absence of everything around me that was starting to look different to what I felt when I'm in alignment, I started to question it even more. I pulled the splinter out. There's a bit of crying involved in that, but that's just me. A bit of a wuss with those things. And then I saw eclipse season was about to start. And so I got all my stuff out of that healing space, put it in my garage and threw a sheet over it. And I just paused. And I figured it was a redirection, right? So maybe I was meant to do more expos. Maybe I was meant to do more online work. But I kept missing out on the psychic expos for factors beyond my control. The spiritual fair that we were here at 12 months ago just didn't go ahead. There was all these things where I had opportunities to work in my spiritual capacity that I just couldn't align with. And then Helen and I couldn't align our schedules for podcasts. Everything I thought was about to take off just seemed to fall in a heap. And now this is just my career, but you can guarantee if you're struggling in one aspect of your life, everything else is getting those other restrictions and you're being pushed in all other areas to kind of a bit of a wake-up moment. So I just stopped. I stopped pushing. I chose not to let the situation, the disappointment frustrate me. I stopped trying to line up schedules that just weren't meant to line up because it was lowering my vibration doing this. And I was worried about how many more roadblocks or splinters they might send my way. I couldn't see the way forward because I wasn't meant to. I wasn't meant to move. The universe works on divine timing, but I was working on my society program timing that told me once your kids start school, you go back to work, you go back into your career. But I think it's because I was playing it small. I was thinking the only way I could fulfill my soul purpose and fill my cup was to have a healing space between the hours of 9 to 3, Monday to Friday. And through this process, I've absolutely been shown that that is not what is for me and is not what I'm meant to do in this point in time. So this left me facing my biggest fear. The personal and physical challenges that I went through to open up to my gifts were nothing short of life changing. Once I'd made it through that, I just assumed that if I could help other people, it was all worthwhile. Everything would be fine. The universe wouldn't have me go through that to just land me back in my old life, I guess, after your awakening. But that's exactly where I was. I went back to my job, which was with our company, which I enjoy, but it's not my sole purpose. So I returned to my same desk. I had the same name, but I wasn't the same person. I was completely different. And I let go of needing to be someone else, a healer, a reader, and I just became who I was. And in that moment, I saw who I was and who I had become. And let's not sugarcoat this. A whole heap of work around identity and shadows and personal wounds came up as a result of this, but it was what needed to happen. I realized this is bigger than me. We have soul contracts and experiences we all came here to learn, and maybe there's just a bigger piece of the puzzle that needs to fall into place for me. Maybe I need to be rested. Maybe I need to be fit. Maybe these are the last moments of quietness with my children in their younger years of schooling. So I want to share with you what I did in this really uncomfortable phase, because these phases happen for a bigger reason, and your resistance to letting them unfold determines the timeline and how it plays out. And Chiron, which is the wounded healer, is part of the new moon in Gemini this Friday coming up. So if you do have wounds and uncomfortable situations that you're currently going through, they're going to come up for review in the next week. So I hope this is helpful for you. If you listen to podcasts, you will know that I am very grounded in my approach. I don't like wishy-washy. I don't like hypotheticals. I'm very much a very practical person. I'm a scientist by trade. So I'm going to give you very practical steps of what you can do if you find yourself in an uncomfortable situation. So first is self-compassion. You just need to observe the experience, the disappointment, the fear, the uncertainty, because when you feel these, they no longer have a hold on you. And sit in this moment. Run towards your biggest fear and embrace it with vulnerability. What gifts are in this moment in the realization that you are living your biggest fear? And that for me was sitting at my desk, which is funny, right? But it really was my biggest fear, that I just went back to who I used to be. Seek support and community, which is what this gathering is all about. Talk to like-minded souls. Find someone who can see the bright side of life, and even add in a little bit of humor is helpful. And even if you just say, which I did many times, I've got no idea what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. I'm not coping, but I guess it's all going to be okay. And then someone might just say to you, you're doing a really good job. And that was all I needed to hear in that moment. Be inspired by others. Even though my journey wasn't progressing how I'd expected, there were other people around me who were just stepping up in their careers, and they'd been through difficult times. So I looked at those people, lifted up with them, and thought, if it can happen to them, it can happen to me. Observe. Astrological transits for me are a really big one, because I believe in the bigger pull of the universe. So I find an astrologer that I like, and I will plug the dates in my phone as a reminder of what's happening astrologically at different times of the month. And that then helps me realize if I'm feeling a certain way, I can check the astrology, and it always does add up, by the way. Not possibly, it will add up. Observe your dreams. There's a online AI tool, and we spoke about things like this before. It's called dreamybot.ai. I can send out the link, but it is a very accurate dream decoder, and I would plug my dreams into that and then save them and reflect back on them. And if there's a reoccurring theme, it will show up for you. And I do have a reoccurring theme of not being able to find a toilet. So do you have that one? Right. So the toilet is fear, right? So bladder and kinesiology and the meridians, it's all about fear and letting go. So when you can't find a toilet in a dream, or you can't shut the door to the toilet cubicle, or the toilet's too big to get on top of, that's how mine play out, or they won't flush. It's all showing you something bigger. And this DreamyBot AI helped me decode it, and it's a phenomenal tool. It's very spiritual based, so all the background behind it, it will tell you what animals mean, what symbols mean, patterns in your life. So I highly recommend that. Listen to the songs on the radio, the conversations you're having with people, and the people around you. Are there restrictions in your relationship? Are there openings? Are there endings happening? Were you neglecting part of yourself in these relationships? Are you taking care of yourself? Now, this is my favorite one, grounding and self-care, because it's so easy to do. I started at the gym. I hadn't had a gym membership because I always looked after children. I didn't have time. So I joined a gym. I only went 2 to 3 days a week. But when you physically exercise, you are shifting that energy within your body without having to think about it, without having to observe your thoughts, without having to know why things are coming up, without trying to interpret it. Physical movement in your body will shift your energy by default. And it is the number one easiest thing you can do. So obviously for me, when I exercise at an intensity, it gets the heart pumping, it's moving my heart chakra, and I feel that when I exercise. And let me tell you, the cardio machines talk to me in the numbers that come up. So I started getting my connection back when I was doing this. If you don't like physical exercise at the gym, it's a walk, it's yoga, it's breathing, whatever it is to get you back into your body. Because if you're in the uncomfortable phase, I guarantee you've lost your connection with yourself. Play your favorite songs, surround yourself with people that make you happy, eat well. It sounds really simple, but these things you do forget in the moment of that uncomfortableness. And I also started doing the sitting in the power meditation, which I'm sure you may be familiar with, you may not. A lot of light workers and healers and spiritual people will do it. So there's a Tony Stockwell sitting in the power 10-minute meditation that I would do every morning and night. And I would start to feel the energies in my body and the entities around me working with me. And that was how I got my connection back, that I assumed they'd all run off, but it was obviously always within me and I'd shut it down. So this was helping me open it back up. So trust the process. As part of this trust, I need to program my mind. So I would set mantras in my phone as an alarm. So 9 a.m., bing, bing, bing. Everything is unfolding for my highest good. Oh, thanks. 12 o'clock, bing, bing, bing. I trust the process, even when I don't understand it. 3 p.m., bing, bing, bing. There's a lesson and blessing in this, and when I'm ready to receive it, it will be revealed. This is an easy way. Program your subconscious, put reminders in your phone, have them bleep at you every day. And now my phone alarm says every morning when I wake up, I am in alignment with my highest timeline. You've got to be positive, because what's the alternative? You live in fear and you let today's fears, the future fears, ruin today's happiness. It's not worth it. You can shift from fear to love with just a thought. I found myself with spare time on my hands because I wasn't working in the career that I thought, and I still have my really lovely work-life balance that our business gives us. So I started practicing as a medium. This is something that I knew was in my future. I didn't know how I would fit it in, but I was able to join a practice circle every week. And that there has also helped my connection and my work with the spirit world and a whole nother. If you're into like the psychic and the medium work, when you work on yourself and you start exploring your ability to connect in and that trust, it really changes your vibration, and your confidence and your self-worth just expands beyond what I could have imagined. So that in itself was enough for me to realize that this was all happening for a bigger reason, and it gave me time to practice as a medium. I didn't manifest because I didn't know what I would be manifesting. And I still don't know, to be honest. I don't know what I'm doing or where I'm going, but I just know certain things light me up. So if you do want to manifest, you could do it in this phase as well. But just step into the healing work. It doesn't need to be scary. We went to the sound bowl healing, Helen and I, down at the Nepalese shop. I did breath work. I can do my own self-Reiki. You could do counseling. You just got to move forward. And if you don't know what to work on yourself. Because when the time is right, the signs will turn up again. The energy will shift. Personally, I find it's about 3 months for an energetic cycle from start to finish to kind of round out complete. That's a short one. But otherwise, it's multiples of 3. So 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. And look, let's be honest, some of them go for longer than a year, but we're growing and learning, and that's just the process. And the signs I saw when this cycle started to end and I'd done the work and I was being rewarded again is a whole other platform that I don't have time for today, but I can come back and share with you that. If the spiritual journey was all love and light, you'd be missing out on the depth of the human experience. To feel pain, fear, loss, and use that to transform yourself into your highest potential, to live through direct experience that allows you to connect with other souls on a much deeper level, to look in the mirror at the person you have become, because without those challenges, you wouldn't have been able to pause to view that mirror. So while I'm not giving up, I am giving it over to the universe, and what's meant for me will find me when the time is right. And I can promise you, you can never lose or mess up what is meant for you. With all that said, I will be guiding you through a third eye clearing at the end of the session, because I believe that clearing your third eye is also really beneficial in this process. And I will use the same process that I was doing regularly. I'm going to use Archangel Raphael because he appeared to me. And then in a beautiful synchronicity, I went to TK Maxx and I went down the back section, which I don't normally do. My teenage daughter dragged me down there. She wanted to go shopping with her friends. And I went down the back, and they have a whole range of spiritual reed diffusers, candles, crystal candles at a very cheap price. And there was Archangel Raphael candle. There was no other candles in the store. A beautiful candle with a picture of him on it, all gold leaf. And that was in the thick of this process. And when I was thinking, when I get through this, I will be able to share it with others. And there he appeared. So before we get there, I did bring some cards for you today because you know I love my cards. And so these cards are for you to keep, and they are mantras. And I've asked the intent for these cards when you select them to be for you to see what's holding you back, what needs to clear, if there's a message from your higher guides, the angels working with us today. So I might go around and give these out now, and then we can come back to the other things. So I'll just give them a bit of a shuffle. So they all look the same from the top. So there's no right or wrong either with this, obviously.